The story opens in a dimly lit bar where Jo works as a bartender. One night, she notices Assistant District Attorney Mark Setter seated alone, discreetly passing cash to a man in exchange for something. His friend Larry lounges nearby with a drink. Mark orders a beer and chats with Jo, asking about her plans after work. She jokes that sleep is all she's got. They share a surprisingly warm moment. Later that night, they talk more deeply. Jo tells him how she built the bar herself, and Mark seems genuinely impressed. Just as their connection grows, Mark's phone buzzes. He turns on the TV to catch news of his courtroom victory against Delita Dux, a corrupt businessman linked to multiple deaths. Jo, proud but concerned, urges him to relax. Mark brushes it off, insists he's fine, and slips on his wedding ring before leaving. Jo warns him about Ernie Dux, a dangerous figure she's seen around, but Mark downplays it and walks out. Driving home, Mark calls his wife Sharon. She congratulates him on the big win. Their call is brief. He's distracted. He notices a vehicle tailing him. Moments later, it slams into his car, cutting the call short. Sharon panics when she can't reach him again. By morning, Sharon's world collapses. Her friend, Detective Carmen Traxler, delivers the devastating news. Mark is dead. Sharon visits the hospital and refuses to believe it was just an accident. Carmen agrees something feels wrong and vows to investigate. Meanwhile, Jo hears the news and is devastated. But the bigger shock comes when she learns Mark was married. He never told her about Sharon. Hurt and confused, she pulls away. At the funeral, Sharon stands at the casket, barely holding herself together. Jo watches from a distance, feeling lost and out of place. Larry comforts Sharon, but she's too grief-stricken to respond. Later, back in his apartment, something feels off. Two men, Strand and Sheldon, emerge from the shadows. Strand demands the documents Mark got from Dux. Terrified, Larry says he doesn't have them. When Strand threatens Sharon, Larry breaks. He reveals Dux still has them. Strand smirks and disappears. The next day, Jo returns to the funeral, still unsettled. This time, Sharon approaches her. They talk, connecting over their shared pain. Jo admits she didn't know Mark was married. Sharon reflects on how many secrets Mark kept. Before Jo leaves, Sharon invites her for a drink, saying it's oddly comforting to talk to someone outside her circle. At the bar, Sharon admits she never knew Mark came there and wonders what else he hid. She also mentions that detectives are trying to access Mark's computer, but the password is unknown. Jo then remembers something. The night before Mark died, he met with two men. One of them was Dux. She didn't recognize the second man, but she clearly saw Dux hand something over to Mark. A chill runs through her. Whatever it was might have led to his death. Sharon then brings up the Delita Sono case, one of Mark's most high-profile wins. It was the kind of case that could put powerful figures behind bars. She's convinced his murder isn't a coincidence. There was something else too. Mark had recently started wearing a pink tie, a color he had always disliked. It struck her as odd, but she had never questioned him about it. Before Jo can respond, she notices someone across the bar, Wendy, who used to date Dux. Without wasting time, Jo walks over and starts a conversation. Wendy is guarded at first, but Jo offers to cover her tab in exchange for information. That softens Wendy's stance, and she eventually tells Jo where Dux has been hiding. Meanwhile, Sharon tries calling Detective Carmen, but there's no answer. Frustrated, she leaves a voicemail. Rather than sitting around waiting for backup, Sharon and Jo decide to follow the lead on their own. Sharon is surprised that Jo is so willing to jump in, but she's also thankful. Despite their differences, it's clear both women cared about Mark deeply. Following Wendy's directions, they arrive at an old, run-down house on the edge of town. The place is eerily quiet, windows clouded with grime, the air thick with the scent of dust and decay. On the second floor, a faint sound draws them forward. When they finally reach the source, they're stunned. Dux is dead, slumped over and unmoving. Both women freeze, unsure what to do next. As panic sets in, Jo notices movement outside. She darts to the window and sees several men in hooded jackets slipping away into the darkness. Acting on instinct, she rushes after them. Sharon, startled, follows. One of the men lunges at Jo, but she reacts quickly, striking him hard. As he staggers, Sharon leaps in and kicks him from behind. Just as they catch their breath, another figure steps from the shadows, Strand. His expression is calm, but his eyes are full of quiet menace. Jo and Sharon exchange a glance. They both know this isn't over. In the heat of the moment, Jo grabs Sharon's gun and opens fire, but her shots miss. Strand vanishes into the night before they can catch him. Later, Detective Carmen arrives at the scene. She surveys the area carefully before pulling Jo aside for questioning. Jo explains everything, how Dux had given Mark something crucial before he died, something worth killing over. Carmen listens but urges caution, warning Jo not to jump to conclusions. As the investigation deepens, Jo spots one of the men she had seen fleeing the house in a photograph. It's a breakthrough. She points him out, giving Carmen a solid lead. At the same time, Carmen discreetly hands Sharon a confidential file detailing Jo's past, multiple fraud charges, a history of vanishing from one town to another. She warns Sharon to stay vigilant, but Sharon isn't swayed. She tells Carmen to stay focused on finding Mark's killer instead of digging into Jo's history. Carmen shares one more chilling detail. A powerful man had hired someone named Lewis to take care of problems. Lewis is known to be brutal and efficient. He never leaves loose ends. Meanwhile, Jo confirms the identity of the man from the house, further solidifying their case. Sharon, grateful, asks Jo where she learned to fight. Jo shrugs it off, saying it was something her ex taught her, clearly unwilling to elaborate. That night, Jo accompanies Sharon back to her home, only to find chaos. The place has been completely trashed. Drawers yanked open, furniture overturned, papers scattered across the floor. Someone had been searching for something, and they weren't subtle about it. Sharon is visibly shaken, her hands trembling. Jo, overwhelmed with anger, takes a swig of whiskey and passes the bottle to her. They sit in silence amid the wreckage. Then Sharon speaks, her voice trembling as she shares how her baby lived only 6 hours. Jo listens quietly, realizing Sharon's pain runs deeper than she knew. Jo insists they leave. It's not safe. She helps Sharon pack essentials and takes her to her place for safety. At Jo's home, Sharon notices tactical gear laid out, including a flashbang. Curious, she explores further and finds a hidden photo of Jo and Mark smiling and close. Betrayed, Sharon storms out before Jo can stop her. She goes to Larry's for answers. He claims he didn't know about Jo and Mark, but assures her he's always on her side. Still reeling, Sharon chooses to spend the night at her own home despite the danger. The next morning, Jo shows up hoping to explain. Sharon, furious, refuses to listen. Jo pleads she didn't know Mark was married and hadn't seen him in months, but Sharon can't forgive her. As Jo turns to leave, she spots a photo of Larry and realizes he was with Mark the night of the Ducks meeting. She rushes back to tell Sharon, who reluctantly agrees to keep digging on one condition. They involve the police. They head to Mark's office and uncover a hidden video file. It shows the district attorney's wife with a man named Dino. Sharon records it. Moments later, DA Sheldon enters unexpectedly, flustered. Jo and Sharon exchange a look. Something bigger is at play. They confront Larry again. This time, he confesses. Mark bought incriminating documents from Ducks exposing powerful figures tied to Delano Industries. Sharon walks away, overwhelmed by betrayal. Later, Sharon is ambushed in an alley by Lewis and Sonny. They try to pin her under a car, but Jo arrives just in time. She fights off Sonny as Sharon breaks free. They escape under gunfire. Reviewing the video again, Sharon spots something shocking. Detective Carmen is in the footage. Their trust in the police crumbles. They visit Lisa, a woman tied to Sheldon and Delano. Sharon questions her while Jo snoops, but gets caught and forced to leave. Lisa later calls Sheldon, unaware the call is being recorded, confirming their suspicions. They soon spot Carmen entering Sheldon's house. The puzzle pieces are falling into place. Jo and Sharon take everything to Detective Glenn, and he refuses to help. Carmen, he says, is already leading the case. Moments later, Carmen shows up and warns them to back off, threatening legal consequences. That night, Jo takes Sharon to visit her birth mother in the hospital. On the way back, Sharon suddenly asks if Mark ever loved Jo. Jo pauses, then admits he didn't. He used her. But she had loved him. Later, Sharon receives a chilling call. It's Lewis. He has Larry and gives her an address. Come alone or Larry dies. She hears Larry's cries in the background. When Jo asks where she's going, Sharon lies, saying she needs time alone. Sharon arrives at the location. Lewis prepares to strike, but Larry turns the tables, killing both him and Sonny. He hands Sharon a flash drive, proof of Delano's crimes. Before they can escape, Sheldon appears, demanding the drive. Larry pulls a gun, but Lewis, barely alive, fires one last shot, hitting Larry. Chaos erupts. Jo bursts in, triggering an explosion as a diversion. Police storm in. Carmen, now exposed, is forced to arrest Sheldon and key Delano executives. Afterward, the news breaks the scandal. Delano Industries have been poisoning the water supply for years. Thanks to Sharon and Jo, justice is served. At dawn, the two women sit in silence. Though forever changed, they've found peace, knowing they fought for the truth and won.